Welcome back to the Wellness on Purpose podcast. If you're new here, our intention is to provide you with impactful, educational, and realistic information to help you progress on your journey to live wellness on purpose now and for future generations. This podcast is brought to you by Joanne's Place Health Foods, which is located in Peterborough and Lindsay, Ontario. My name is Marissa Laughlin. I am a holistic nutritionist and your host for the podcast. Good morning, guys. It's Marissa here. And before we jump into today's topic, I want to quickly share an incredible celebration with you. Joanne's Place is celebrating 45 years of business. 45 years. That is so rare to hear in business these days, and we could not have done it without the support of you. The mission for Joanne's Place has been to be champions of wellness in our communities that we serve, from the distinctive quality of products that we select to the passion in caring for every single relationship that we are entrusted with. We would not be here celebrating these 45 years of business without the support from all of you. Thank you so much for being with us through our journey and allowing us to support yours. So thank you. Now let's get to today's episode. Today, we are welcoming back Cyrus Kuhzarani from Pure Labs Vitamins. Cyrus joined us back in February to share about the rising concerns of cardiovascular disease in women. In case you missed that episode, I will leave that link in the description for you to check out. But for today's episode, we've asked Cyrus to join us again to share his knowledge on preventing Seasonal Affective Disorder, also known as SAD. I think it's incredibly important to be talking about seasonal affective disorder because so many people are undiagnosed and have had to just live day to day with mood fluctuations during this time of year. And I myself have been one of those people. So before we jump into the details on how to naturally support your body as we transition through the seasons, let's first welcome Cyrus back onto the podcast. Good morning, Cyrus. Welcome back to the Wellness on Purpose podcast. How are you doing today?
Very good. Thank you. Thank you for having me on this program.
Yes, we are looking forward to navigating through this topic today with you. So thank you for joining us to share your wealth of knowledge. And for our listeners, just in case you guys missed our last episode with Cyrus, I will share that link later in the description. But let's start by maybe introducing yourself a little bit, Cyrus, so our listeners know who you are, what you do, and also about Pure Labs as a company.
Sure. My name is Cyrus. I've been a pharmacist for more than half my life. I practically grew up in a pharmacy back in Germany. My mother's pharmacy was located right behind a thick oak door in our living room, so I could just walk through, and I got to spend a lot of time with her staff, and customers during my childhood. My mother was, as any mother, she was special, but she was actually a herbalist at heart. And she taught me early on to always question the value of pharmaceutical approaches and to think critically about pharmaceutical teachings. So it was really no surprise that I became a compounding pharmacist, more interested in diet, lifestyle, and nutritional approaches to health, especially if the conditions we were looking at were actually diet and lifestyle induced. So today, I no longer practice as a pharmacist and focus instead on my vitamin and mineral products with Pure Lab Vitamins here in Ottawa. Pretty proud of our accomplishments in this sector. We are a very strong and ever-growing brand in Canada, venturing out into other parts of the world.
Amazing. Yeah, so Pure Labs is a Canadian company, and we do have that in our Joanne's Place locations, all 3 locations. So if most of our listeners should be familiar with that, but if not, please pop in and take a look at what this incredible company has to offer. So today is the perfect mood to kind of talk about the actual conversation we're going to have today. It's a little bit rainy, the temperature is starting to drop, and just in reality, the season is beginning to change. We're rolling into autumn, we're seeing shorter days, we're seeing cooler temperatures, and also less sunlight. So during this time, we tend to adjust our lifestyles to adapt these changes by wearing more layers, or maybe we're eating warmer foods, we're spending less time outside, more time inside on the couch. But this can be not so great of a transition for some people, because one area that a lot of people tend to neglect during this seasonal change is their mental health. Not everyone is aware that our mental health is impacted heavily, heavily by our surroundings, and that includes our exposure to sunlight. So, Cyrus, what makes sunlight so impactful to our health?
I believe everyone knows the difference between waking up to a gray, rainy day or to a bright and sunny day. The sunny day is always 100% better. The sun brightens up our mind, our attitude. It seems to give us energy and a much more positive outlook.
Yes, absolutely. So when our bodies have less exposure to sunlight, what happens to our bodies?
Well, biochemically speaking, the lack of sunlight raises melatonin levels even during the day. That can make us more sleepy and more kind of dozy. Vitamin D levels in the blood drop. Also, serotonin levels in our blood and our system and the brain drop. And with all that, our mood drops as well. Sunlight has a number of effects directly on our biochemistry. It actually counteracts melatonin, which we actually produced the night before to help us with sleep. Sunlight regulates our serotonin levels up, and serotonin is one of our most important feel-good hormones. And it does that by directly affecting the brain via our eyes, but also by producing more vitamin D3 in our skin, but only if larger areas of our skin are actually exposed to the UV light within sunlight.
This time of year, we tend to hear the conversation more around seasonal affective disorder, which we're going to talk a little bit more in detail in a bit. But I was actually on our Canadian Mental Health Association website, and I was looking at some stats around Canada and what those stats are in terms of people who are diagnosed with seasonal affective disorder. And that's within some point of their life, 2 to 3% of Canadians experience this. Now, I found these stats to be quite low considering the amount of people that I speak to on a regular basis, whether they're in store, they're a private client of mine, or even just on social platforms being open and having the conversation about their mood fluctuations during this transition of the seasons. But this leads me to believe that this low of a stat maybe because people are undiagnosed with seasonal affective disorder, or they have other mental health concerns that they are trying to manage, like anxiety or other forms of depression. Now, I want to quickly mention before we go farther into this topic, it is really important to talk to whomever your healthcare provider is, whether it is your doctor, your naturopath, whomever you are trusting with your health to navigate these changes. But with that being said, I think a lot of people are really, really disconnected from their bodies. They're not aware of the connection to sunlight, the season change, what happens when we have less exposure to sunlight. They're just not aware of those changes that are happening externally that have a reflection of the changes that are happening internally. So, for our listeners today, can you share some signs and symptoms that they could be mindful of that may indicate they're suffering with seasonal affective disorder?
The first thing to mention here is that, as the name implies, SAD is a seasonal problem. Problems usually start mid-fall when the days are getting shorter, usually go away when spring starts. Common symptoms are depression and tiredness most of the day and nearly every day during the winter, loss of interest in activities that you normally enjoy, generally low energy, sleep problems, and including and very commonly oversleeping. This is the effect that with more darkness, our bodies produce a little bit more melatonin when we really don't need it. Then there are changes in appetite, especially the craving of carbs, carbohydrates, sugary foods. We feel sluggish or even agitated during this time of the year and have difficulty concentrating or even brain fog.
I can definitely relate to some of those symptoms. I feel like
Mm-hmm.
as the seasons change, I'm craving more squashes and potatoes and just more carbohydrate based foods to kind of keep warm, really, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
And also the oversleeping. I see a lot of people talk about, midday naps this time of year of just feeling like they need to reset. But really long term, that isn't necessarily helping if someone is suffering with a seasonal affective disorder. So, is there an actual cure for seasonal affective disorder? Or is it something that we can just manage with lifestyle, diet, and supplementation?
Well, I believe there is a cure, but it's not one magic pill or one previously unknown herb that nobody knew about. I think there's a number of things that, when used together, can have a huge impact on our mood throughout the winter. We actually, with Pure Lab Vitamins, we're offering a webinar on SAT on October 20th, 6:30 p.m., where we'll go into much detail on this topic and also into treatment options and dosage recommendations. You can register with Joanne's Place. They'll be sending out links on their newsletter and on their website, or visit our website and subscribe to our news at the bottom of the first page. And also, this webinar will be recorded and will be available on our YouTube channel a couple of days later, where you can find also a large number of other webinars and videos that might be of interest to you. So for that, you just have to enter Pure Lab Vitamins, 3 words, into the YouTube search bar.
Perfect. And yes, in the description, we will leave the link for you to register for this event, as well as the Pure Labs website and the Joanne's Place website, where you can find more information there. But without giving away too much information that you'll be releasing in the webinar, can you talk a little bit about if someone was suffering with seasonal affective disorder, do you think that this could indicate they're having some type of mineral or vitamin deficiency going on in their bodies?
Well, I would not say in 100% of all cases, but quite frequently, yes. Vitamins to mention here are vitamin D3, magnesium, B vitamins. Those are the key players on the nutrient side. And then there are also a couple of nutritional remedies that can be very helpful. And those would be melatonin and also L-theanine to help us relax, sleep better, and kind of combat stress.
Awesome. Yeah, I find this time of year it's really important to amp up your vitamin D,
Mm,
prioritize those vitamins like your magnesium, your melatonin, and L-theanine to help with anxiety and any mood fluctuations as well.
mhm.
Now, are there any other lifestyle factors that can help to reduce the effects of seasonal affective disorder?
Absolutely. The first one to mention here is regular daily exercise. And there's dietary shifts away from these excess carbs and towards more lean proteins with proper amounts of healthy, organic, seasonal veggies. And these are usually kind of mentioned as treatment options. I would call these much rather treatment necessities. I think they really play into not just prevention of seasonal affective disorder, but help us overall to be more energetic, more focused, stay cleaner, and detox, and yeah, improve on all kinds of levels. Stress and stress management play another huge role here. Stress affects sleep and circadian rhythm, the way we kind of are awake and sleepy throughout the day. Stress suppresses serotonin production, but also melatonin production, and also vitamin D blood levels drop down to nothing during time of acute stress. If the lack of daylight is actually triggering the seasonal affective disorder, then working with light should provide some results as well, right? So, and there we use so-called light box therapy, where 60 to 80% of people with SAD experience significant improvement of symptoms. You're simply exposing yourself at certain times of the day with a special kind of light, and that is very helpful. These devices are called SAD lamps. They emit a special type of light, providing around 10,000 lux of light output. They are best used in the morning, and we'll have a whole chapter on this type of therapy in the webinar on October 20th.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, I think that pretty much in any interview I do, stress is like the number one lifestyle
Yes.
factor that people just need to be mindful of. Like people, like I said, are so disconnected from their bodies, they don't even know when they're feeling a state of stress versus what it feels like to not be stressed. And if there's one encouragement I can really give to people right now is to check in with yourself and find where that threshold is for you, because everyone's going to have some level of stress, whether it's financially, their lifestyle, their work life, the world in general right now. But there are ways to manage that stress, because not always are those stresses just able to be removed from your life. But stress is huge. It's the driving factor for so many health concerns, especially when it comes to mental health. So we've got to get that under
Absolutely.
control.
Big thing here to mention is that people tend to kind of put their heads down when under stress and kind of try to just kind of cope and get through the day. During this time, they breathe shallow. They're kind of trying to just make it go away, make it go away. But the actual key is to pop your head up and look the stress or stressor straight into the eye, and then this makes you proactive instead of reactive. And then there's ways to actually either avoid those stressors or change your attitude towards them, and with that then drop your level of stress. I always say that we only have one life. We might as well enjoy it. And if you're dealing with a job that stresses you day after day after day, then from my point of view, this job is not worth keeping. We tend to stick to these things because they provide our livelihood. But I mean, if you don't look around for other opportunities, they will never come to you. So consciously looking to improve your living situation, trying to find a new, maybe better job that you enjoy, has huge impact on your longevity and your quality of life therein. And the same applies to people. If you have a person in your life that stresses you out, like look the stressor straight into the eye and see, first of all, what you can do on your inside to make changes in how this affects you. And if nothing works, let it go. We only have one life. We might as well have fun with it instead of being stressed out every day, all day long.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. Just a quick recap for our listeners. Pure Labs is putting on a webinar on October 20th at 6:30 p.m. and they are going to be talking all about SAD. And you're going to be hosting this, correct, Cyrus?
Correct, yes.
Perfect.
There'll be it's a presentation where we go through all these individual treatment options or treatment necessities, and then followed by nutritional recommendations, including dosage recommendations. And I usually then switch over to live questioning. Listeners can type questions during the presentation, and I can then, after the presentation, pick through those one by one and try to respond to the best of my knowledge.
Great. And if you cannot make that time, there will be a recording available on their YouTube channel as well.
Correct. But for that, to receive the link to the recording, it helps to really be registered beforehand, because then we have your email information, and we'll send out the link to the recording usually within a couple of days after. And it also goes up on our YouTube channel and on our website.
Perfect. And we'll also have a display set up in store talking about some of the products that we briefly touched on today and some more information on how to register. So I will also leave the link in the description below for you guys to register. And I just want to thank you so much, Cyrus, for joining us again on our podcast, sharing your wisdom, and also for providing a future webinar for more people to learn how to manage and navigate seasonal affective disorder.
Well, thank you for having me. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Cyrus. It's such a pleasure to have you on the podcast. And if you guys are still here listening, thank you so much for tuning in for today's episode and all of our previous episodes as well. Before I go, I just want to share some exciting news about how we plan on giving back to you and celebrating our 45 years of business at Joanne's Place. Over the next couple weeks, we're going to have some incredible promotions, sale, and instant savings in store, and also some really exciting giveaways online. So be sure to be following Joanne's Place on social media so you get all of the details on what's going on. All right, that wraps up today's episode, and you guys know what to do next. Be sure to have subscribed to our channel so that you do not miss a notification as soon as a new episode is released, and be sure to continue to share on social media that you're listening to the Wellness on Purpose podcast.